Well, on this day, 2 years ago, January 16th of 2019, my grandfather went to be with the Lord. And I've spent the last year of my life making a video on every single verse that he identified in his Bible, whether through a sticky note or a highlight. And I'll tell you what, by doing so, I learned so much more about this man. I learned about what he cared about and the things that he valued and how much he cared for others just by going through this process. And if you want to know a little bit more about my grandfather, every single one of those videos is up on my channel, so take some time to watch them because it will give you great insight into who he is. But I have one more verse to do. I'm going to do it today, and it's a great way to end this series because it really sums up who my grandfather was as a person, and it really shows the type of life that he lived and strived to live. So the verse comes from Galatians chapter 5, verse 6. And he highlighted the second half. I don't know if this is going to come through in the video very well, but you can see his actual highlight right there on the second half of that verse. Again, don't know if that'll come through well, but it's a very light highlight. And the second half of that verse says, "The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love." So if you don't know my grandfather, or if you met him in passing, what you need to know about him is how much he loved others and how much he cared about people. And it's not something that he just felt. It's something that he acted on through faith. You see, God, the creator of the universe, loves every single human being on earth. And I know that's hard to imagine because there are some people that I sure don't feel like I should love. But my grandfather reflected that. And you can see that based on how packed his funeral service was. I mean, there's standing room only, essentially, because so many people cared about this man, and it's because he cared so much about them. He's a perfect example of what a Christian should be. He wouldn't have beat you over the head with the Bible. He may have never even said that he was a Christian, but his actions would have showed you that he cared more about people than most of society. And that would have pointed you to the foot of the cross. And if you would have asked him why was he different, he would have willingly told you. Because he never wanted to be offensive to anyone, but he was more than happy to tell you why he was different. When asked once about how he made it through all that time in the mill without getting any injuries or any significant damage to his body over all the time he spent working, he would tell you it was because when he got in the car in the morning, he would say a prayer. And when he left, he would say thank you. And that's powerful, and that got him through the day. And he'd tell anyone that story if you just asked. He might not have had 2 pennies to rub together at times in his life, but if you asked him, he would have given you both of them. And if that's not what a Christian is called to be, then I don't know what is. So this is a great way to end this series. He was a man of great faith. And because of that, I know that he's in heaven. And I know that I will see him again one day. And I cannot wait for that day. Because I miss him terribly. But it's like, the best way that I could describe it is it's like dropping a kid off at school. You know, I have 2 little ones, and when my daughter attended preschool, you drop her off and you miss her. And even though you know you're going to see her again in a very brief amount of time, you know, by the end of the day, you still miss them terribly. And that's how this works. When someone passes away who is a Christian, who believes in Jesus Christ, the good news is they spend eternity with the Lord. And as you, if you are a Christian, when you pass on from this life to the next, you'll be reunited with all of those people. And I cannot wait for that day. I cannot wait for that day. It's going to seem like a long time for us here on earth, but for my grandfather who's in heaven, spending eternity there, it's going to be like the blink of an eye. So be like my grandfather. If you take nothing else from these videos, the one thing he'd want you to know is that we need to care for each other. we need to encourage each other. We need to take care of each other, because that is our calling as Christians. Jesus said the greatest commandments are love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And that is the man who my grandfather was. And that is the man that I want to be. It's always harder than I think. I hope this message finds you guys well. I hope you enjoyed this series as much as I did. It was good to go through this process. And again, if you want to learn a little bit more about my great-grandfather, not my great-grandfather, my grandfather who was great. Words are hard at this point in my day. Go watch those other videos. Learn a little bit more about him and learn how to be a good Christian by following his example and by listening to the verses that he would have wanted you to hear by identifying them in his Bible. Like I said, I hope this message finds you well. I hope that you found encouragement out of these videos. And just go and encourage others, because this life is hard. It's not easy. And anything you can do to lift someone up has a ripple effect across time that you may never see. But continue to do that, because that is your calling. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.